Hi, welcome back to the channel. This week I'm being very heavily inspired by Virtual Riot and his latest Techno Rumble video. And my plan is, let's see if we can get it all in the single instance of Serum. And spoiler alert, here it is. This is what we're going to recreate. And just to demonstrate that, we have 3 channels here, but only one is active, and that's this instance of Serum. Let's play this back. Right, so let's get to it then. Here on channel 3, I have a fresh instance of Serum. We'll turn this channel on, we'll turn the original one off, and in channel 1, I have a kick. And as you just saw, this kick will eventually end up in Serum, but just for now it's on a separate channel, so we have something to play along with. Now let's start with the hats. We'll turn oscillator A off, and we will turn the noise oscillator on. Color, white noise, and as I'm sure you're aware, if we attach an envelope to the level of the white noise, we start to make a hat like so. Let's take that off though and put it back to the default. Instead of using an envelope, we're going to use LFO 1. Let's turn this up to 16 steps, 1 bar, and we'll hold down Shift, and we'll change these all into little blocks here. So this is the first hat that we're making. Let's turn this up. We will draw in basically our envelope that we created earlier. We're going to put here. We'll do another one here perhaps, and then let's go here as well. Obviously that needs to go onto level. And here we'll just put on a sustained note on C3. On these curves, right click, LFO bus 1, and we'll put this on macro 4. Doesn't really matter because this is only temporary. LFO bus 1, make sure they're all the same. And essentially what this does, it will adjust this curve simultaneously. So we can basically play along with that to get the required decay. We'll put a high pass filter on, ensure that it's on noise. This is the open hat. Let's go with that for now. The point isn't to make it perfect, the point is to demonstrate the concept. Now let's go up to our menu and we will do resample to oscillator A. Turn off the noise, turn off the filter, and we can disconnect the LFO. Let's go to LFO 6 now and we'll draw a ramp, 1 bar, and attach that to the wavetable position. Let's play this back. We might have to adjust the octaves here. So now we have our open hat on oscillator A. Let's now do the same for the closed hat. Noise on. This time we will use LFO 2. Once again, 16 little blocks. Attach that to the level. Filter 1 on. And we can draw in a shape here. Turn the rate down to 1 bar. Turn the filter up a bit because we want the closed hat to be a little bit brighter, or I should say a little bit less low end. And then once again, right click, modulate curve. This time we want LFO bus 2 because we don't want it to be on the same macro. So here we'll go macro, doesn't really matter. Let's do macro 3. Put our open hat back on and the kick. I think that's working. Maybe just adjust the cutoff a little bit. We can turn down this one should we wish. And now here we're going to save this as a wavetable also. So make sure we turn off oscillator A, otherwise we'll be duplicating. Menu, resample, this time to B. We don't want to override oscillator A. Oscillator B on, LFO 6 to the position, turn off noise, turn off filter. So now we just have oscillator B playing. Once again, adjust the octaves. Put the kick back on. And we'll get the levels right. I think that's working. So just to recap, we now have two oscillators playing, both of which were rendered noise, and the wavetable is being scanned by LFO6. So now let's go up here, resample to oscillator C. Let's turn that on, and we'll turn B and A off, attach LFO6 to wavetable position of C, and now we should have that entire hat loop being played on oscillator C. Turn down the octave again. Turn down the random phase. In fact, I should have reduced random phase on oscillator A and B before I rendered, but it seems to have come out okay anyway. With a kick. And then while we're here, let's attach LFO2 to the level. And now we'll create our snare. So let's turn oscillator C off, noise on. In this case, we'll go with something with character. The default one, I think it's AC hum, which actually sounds quite nice for this. LFO3, attach that to the level. Once again, 1 bar. And here we're going to draw in a curve. Let's put that here. Well, now one difference here that you're probably already identifying is that in the hat examples, we rendered out a loop. So we entered the envelopes exactly where we wanted that to play. But now, we are just going to essentially render out a single hit. So I'm going to put it right at the start. Let's go around here. And in this case, we don't need to attach it to a macro because we only have one node here. So it's very easy to manipulate. Make sure we bypass these because we don't want them playing the noise also. Now here, let's go up to our effects. This is exactly what Virtual Riot did, so no change there. There was another one also. Let's copy LFO3 to LFO4, and we'll attach that to the drive all the way up. And the reason for creating a new one is because we want a different curve. So the amplitude of the snare is going to be a little bit more open like that, whereas the distortion is going to be more sharp. Let's add a compressor on this, a multiband. We could tweak it for days, but let's keep it there. Menu, resample to oscillator B. Let's turn that on. We'll turn off oscillator C and noise. So now if we trigger a note, we hear our snare. We're going to go up here, right click, enable pitch tracking. So now when we play back a note, first of all, you can hear it sounds horrible now because it's in a different octave, but it sounds consistent and that's what we want. So let's go up and adjust the octaves. I think it's going to be around 0. Or maybe 1. So now we're back to where we were, albeit with every note playing the same hit, which is perfect. But now we need a way to trigger that sound. So let's go to oscillator mapping, and we have our snare on oscillator B. Let's go over to here, and we'll turn this only to C4. So it's only playing C4. And while we're here, we'll do oscillator C, which is our loop, our hat loop. Put this on C5. And also while we're here, let's do oscillator A, C3, and C3. And also, spoiler alert, let's do noise as well because that's now going to become our rumble. So let's put that on C also. So now we have kick, rumble, snare, and hat loop. Let's turn on our clip launcher. And like I said, we have hat loop on C5. We have our snare. And we have our kick, which doesn't yet exist, on 3. So let's put that in there. And we also have our noise, but that's going to be triggered at the same time as the kick on C3. So there's nothing that needs to be entered for that. On the clip, let's right click and we'll check that the MIDI input octave is on -2. Well, it doesn't really matter, just whatever you prefer. I like to have -2. And then we'll go to our MIDI here and put this on -2, C, -2, all the way down there. So that note that we just entered, instead of triggering directly these wavetables, it's going to trigger the clip, which in turn is going to play this pattern. Let's see if that works. Remember, the kick is coming external, we'll turn that off. We obviously need to turn on a hat loop, and then we'll do the same here. We will disable pitch tracking. We'll add a macro for the snare level. And one other thing we need to do is disable, or we can delete them altogether, but for now, let's just disable these effects. Next, we need to do our noise. We'll change this to white noise. Ensure that the filter is in the middle. This is essentially a high pass or low pass for the noise. Let's turn B and C off, so we're only working with the noise. Let's go to a new LFO here, sounds good. We'll attach this to the level. We'll put this on 1/4 because we want this to be pumping in a quarter note alongside the kick. Put it up just like that, so it has a bit of a tail, a bit of a dip before the end of the quarter note. Now let's have a listen to this. So what we want here is for this noise to have its own effect chain. So let's go here to our output and we'll do none, and then we'll turn bus 2 up. So now when I play this back, it is only coming out of bus 2. And to demonstrate that, we'll put an EQ on, a high cut, turn down the Q, and then we'll turn this all the way down. So now we can adjust the cutoff without impacting any of the other channels. Let's take this off. So instead of using an EQ, we're going to use a filter, because then we can apply quite a steep slope, in this case 24 dB. After we do that, it's almost barely audible, so let's give it a bit of gain. We'll add a utility, and here we'll do the same, bit more gain. And just because we have it, let's turn on mono bass also. It should already be mono, because we didn't adjust the stereo parameter here, but we have it, so why not use it? Now let's give this LFO a bit of a shape. Let's do something like this. Put another point in there. Make a little fancy shape like that. Looks kind of pretty. And then here, modulate the x-axis. We want it to go left and right. Let's put this on macro 7. This is going to be a permanent one. X, LFO bus 3, X, LFO bus 3. This one we will call pump. We'll play back a kick. And when we adjust this macro now, it's going to move this whole curve left and right. And essentially we're going to use this to get the pumping in time, or into the groove essentially of the kick. So where we had it by default actually works quite well. We can move it back, give a bit of room to the kick, or we can move it forward, which doesn't really sound that good, but it's an option if you want. Next, I'm going to add another utility. Macro onto there. Let's make this one just about there for now. And we'll play this back and we'll see how loud it gets. So essentially this is to adjust the level of the rumble. Call this one rumble. And we're almost there. We'll change this one to a sample, and then we will drop in our kick, which I think was this one. Right click, enable pitch tracking, turn that off once again. Make sure oscillator is set to 0. Come to our effects, make sure there's nothing on the main. Macro 1 to the level all the way up, and call this kick. As you can hear, it's nothing now, we have this down. So now we have essentially our full kit, if you like, inside a single instance of Serum. We can right click, copy, we can paste this down here. So now we have it in slot 2. The second one is now going to be triggered by C#. So let's go up to here, we'll draw another clip, put it down here. We'll move this one up like so. And then we can do something different with it. Let's put this here, for example. And then we'll take out this kick. This is completely at random. Let's go something like that, perhaps. And then one final thing, let's go to our main here, main effects. Let's put on a compressor and also an EQ. On the EQ, we're going to turn high pass, frequency all the way down, Q there. So this is basically just going to cut out the very, very, very lows. We'll put that before the comp. Change this to a limiter. We just want to cut just occasional peak. So there we go, how to create Techno Rumble within Serum, as well as include essentially a entire kit in there. Now obviously I have the hats just as a loop, that's obviously debatable, you might challenge me there, but that's fine. But as proof of concept, I think it works. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time, bye bye.